Summary of Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Katherine Boo. The book begins with a prologue that tells us about Abdul, a garbage collector in the Mumbai slum of Anawadi. Abdul is hiding in his family's garbage shed because he is afraid of being arrested for setting his neighbor Fatima on fire, even though he is innocent and has worked hard all his life to stay out of trouble. The book then goes back in time to January 2008, which is 7 months before the fire. Abdul, the oldest son in the Hussain family, is 16 or 17 years old. He sorts recyclables to sell to recycling plants, which helps his parents Karam and Zarunisa support their family of 13. Because Abdul works so hard, Murchi, who is younger, can keep going to school. Murchi hopes to get a clean job as a waiter in a hotel, but he knows that Muslims still face discrimination, which could limit his options. Asha is another slum dweller who wants to make it big. She wants to be the first woman to run a slum in Anawadi. She wants to fix problems for the powerful Shiv Sena party and make money from government programs that help poor people. Asha does everything with the goal of making money, like sending her daughter Manju to college so that Manju can make even more money for the family. Manju doesn't like the way Asha takes advantage of people, but Asha thinks that's the only way for poor people in India to get ahead. Sunil, another young boy in Anawadi, knows how few choices the poor have. He looks through trash all day to sell to Abdul. Most of the time, he looks along a concrete wall at the airport that is covered with ads for ceramic tiles that will stay beautiful forever. This wall is meant to hide Anawadi from the airport's wealthy international passengers. Sunil doesn't usually find enough trash at the airport to make enough money to eat well. He hasn't had enough to eat, so he hasn't grown as much as he should have. He tries to use his appearance to get airport security officers to feel sorry for him, but it rarely works. The conglomerate that owns the land where Anawadi is built keeps saying that it will tear down the slum to make more room for an airport. Officials in Mumbai agree to the plan because they want to show that India no longer has poor slums. Boys like Abdul and Sunil know that people in the city hate the poor, but they try to make it through life with their pride still intact. Other boys, like the cute young Kalu, get hooked on drugs and steal to stay alive. Even though Kalu has had a hard life, everyone in Anawadi loves him because he is funny. Manju, on the other hand, is the girl in Anawadi who is kind, beautiful, smart, and follows the rules. She really believes that education can make a difference in the lives of poor girls in Anawadi, but her mother is more cynical about it. Asha runs a school in the slum just to make it look like she is doing something good. Manju works hard on her schoolwork and helps Asha with Shiv Sena business whenever she is asked. She gives up sleep and free time to do all her chores when she has a little bit of time to herself. Manju tells herself that at least she has more freedom than her best friend in Anawadi, Meena, whose father and brothers control everything in her life. Fatima, who is called one leg with disdain because she was born with one of her legs bent, also fights against the limits of her life. Fatima was forced to marry a Muslim man and moved to Mumbai from a small village. To feel good about herself, she flaunts her extramarital affairs. Abdul's mother, Zarunisa, doesn't like Fatima, who lives next door. She is especially worried when Fatima's youngest daughter drowns and Fatima doesn't seem to care. Even though Zarunisa doesn't like it, the only Muslims in this part of Anawadi have to live together. Karam, Abdul's dad, wants to move his family out of Anawadi and into a Muslim suburb called Vasai. But Abdul's mom, Zarunisa, would rather use their limited savings to fix up their house in Anawadi. Zarunisa wins, and Abdul tries to put shelves in the brick wall that separates Fatima's house from Hussein's. Fatima is scared by the building, so she insults the Hussain family for being so brazen as to show off their wealth in front of her. After Zarunisa shouts some insults back at Fatima, Karam and Kekashan, the oldest Hussain daughter, start a shouting match with Fatima that ends with Karam telling Abdul to beat Fatima. Abdul doesn't, so Fatima breaks into her house in a rage. When Fatima's daughter Nuri comes home for dinner, she finds her mother pouring kerosene on herself. Fatima lights herself on fire and says that the Hussains pushed her to do it, which is illegal in India. Fatima is rushed to the public hospital, Karam is arrested, and Abdul goes into hiding. But Abdul is too honest to stay on the run, so he goes back to the police. When Fatima dies, their time in the police station gets even worse. They are beaten, go hungry, and are in a desperate situation. Now that they are accused of murder, the police, Asha, the hospital, and the person in charge of their case are all trying to get money from them. Zarunisa pays a police officer to try Abdul as a minor. As a result, Abdul is sent to a place for kids called Dongri. At Dongri, Abdul becomes a student of a man named the Master. The Master's moral lessons have a big impact on Abdul, and he now wants to be one of the few truly good people who live in the slum. In July, Asha wants to set up a marriage for Manju that will get their family out of the slum and into the middle class. She makes Manju spend less time volunteering at the slum school and more time talking to middle-class students in her college classes, but Manju still feels like an outsider. When Manju finds out that Asha sleeps with politicians and policemen for money and power, she is very upset, but she can't do anything about it. Sunil decides to become a thief to avoid the sad death from disease that most scavengers face. He teams up with Kalu to steal things. Abdul, who has been let out of Dongri until his trial, tells Sunil to stay on the right side of the law, but Sunil keeps stealing until Kalu's body is found at the airport. Kalu's death sets off the boys of Anawadi with grief and panic. They know that no one will care about the murder of a boy from a slum, so they wrote down that Kalu died of tuberculosis. One of Kalu's friends, Sanjay, is so upset about the murder that he eats rat poison to kill himself. Sunil and Abdul became friends when they both lost a loved one. Asha starts planning a legendary party for Navratri in late September. Navratri is a holiday with 9 nights of dancing, which is the only time most girls in Mumbai are allowed to dance and flirt. Many of the women in Anawadi see Fatima's suicide as a sign of all the stress and pain that comes with being a wife and mother in this stifling environment. They desperately need a way out. Meena and Manju also feel this tension in the air, even secretly discussing the best methods for committing suicide if that becomes necessary in their imminent arranged marriages. Meena finally gives in to her family's constant bullying on the first day of Navratri and swallows a tube of rat poison. Meena dies 6 days after Manju tries to save her. By November, the global economic crisis has made it impossible for most people to make money by picking up trash, and terrorist attacks in Mumbai have destroyed the normal tourism industry there. The people who live in Anawadi have never been poorer. By January, the only way Sunil can make money is by stealing from the airport construction sites. Selling metal to Abdul is a risky business, but it helps him make a living. Abdul broke his promise not to trade stolen goods, and he thinks that in these hard times, even a terrible life is still a life. Karam and Kaikashan's murder trial, Abdul is a minor and is being tried separately, finally starts in one of India's fast-track courts, where judges don't even have time to hear all the evidence in the hundreds of cases they hear every month. Karam tells his family to have faith in justice, even though he knows that in India, justice is based on who can pay the most. Lucky for Fatima, the people who were asked to testify about what happened the day she burned herself say that she did it by herself. Only Fatima's husband and her best friend Cynthia keep saying that the Hussains burned Fatima. But just when it seems like the judge will find the Hussains not guilty, a new judge is brought in and the evidence has to be given all over again. People in Anawadi are very excited about the upcoming parliamentary election and the chance to pick a new prime minister who will make real changes for India's poor. But most Anawadians can't register to vote because the government still doesn't consider people who live in slums to be real citizens. The election is over, and the same person is re-elected as prime minister. Planned destruction of Anawadi is the only real change. Anyone who can prove they have lived in the slum since 2000 is entitled to an apartment with running water, but Asha makes deals with rich politicians to give most of those apartments to middle-class Mumbai residents who don't live in Anawadi. She gets hated in Anawadi, but she doesn't care anymore because she now thinks of herself as middle class and doesn't care what the poor think of her. Karam and Kekashian are finally found not guilty by the judge in June 2009, but Abdul's case in the minor court drags on through 2009 and 2010. Abdul learns to live with the fact that he doesn't know the verdict yet. He works hard to provide for his family again, even though he feels bad that he has to be corrupt to get by in this unfair world. Still, boys like Sunil believe that people in Anawadi will have a better life in the future.
About the author. Boo grew up in Washington, D.C., and went to college at Columbia University's Barnard College. She worked for the Washington City paper and the Washington Monthly to improve her writing skills. She was an editor and an investigative reporter for the Washington Post from 1993 to 2003. After writing for the New Yorker for 3 years, Boo joined the staff full-time in 2004. Boo has won a lot of awards for her work in social justice and public service over the course of her career. These include a Pulitzer Prize, a National Magazine Award for Feature Writing, and the 2002 Sidney Hillman Award. Boo also won a MacArthur Genius Grant in 2002, which paid for him to live and work in poor and little-known neighborhoods. Boo married Sunil Kilnani, who was a professor of politics at King's College in London and an expert on Indian history. Soon after, she became obsessed with writing about the stories in India that keep going unnoticed as the country's economy changes quickly. Boo lived in the Anawadi slum for 3 years. She wrote the award-winning book Behind the Beautiful Forevers based on what she saw there. Since 2008, Boo has split her time between India and the United States. She still writes for the New Yorker about inequality and economic opportunity in a world that is becoming more connected.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.